What if the problem isn't you? What if you're in the wrong room? My suspicion? You're not broken and you don't need to be fixed. You've outgrown where you are. Let's get more space and freedom to redesign the life you deserve. Welcome to the Reinvention Room. I'm Allison Hare, podcast launch strategist for ambitious leaders, and we are rethinking everything we've been taught. Part pop culture, part real talk, and all smarter ways to live life on your own terms. Okay, I feel like I'm a little bit nervous because I have Nikki Boyer here. And Nikki, I've been like a silent fan, stalker, stan, since 2020. She is the executive producer of the hit TV series Dying for Sex, starring Michelle Williams and Jenny Slate, as well as the hit podcast documenting Nikki and Molly Kochan's life as Molly gets cancer. Welcome, Nikki. I'm so glad that you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so grateful. Anytime we get to chat and hang out and talk about my sweet little Molly, it gives me, it's my favorite thing to do. So thanks for having me on the show.
I feel like I'm like right in the middle of your relationship. Like it was such a, it's such a potent relationship. Can you tell me the premise of Dying for Sex and who Molly Kochan is?
Sure. So my best friend Molly, who I've known for, over 2 decades now. We met in Los Angeles, we weren't crazy. She wasn't crazy about me at first, but I thought she was just enamoring. Became friends, and through our friendship, like every female friendship, went through a lot of things together, marriages, divorces, illnesses. But when Molly got diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, she decided to do something really bold. It was a moment for her. She wanted to reclaim her life. So she decided to leave her relationship, her marriage that she was in for 14, 15 years, and go on a sexual journey to have as much fun, exciting, virtual, real life sex that she could have before things got bad with her cancer. And in that process, we decided to document it and talk about it. And we did a podcast and we recorded some episodes, and we just kept thinking like, there's something here, right? It's like a female empowerment. It's also reclaiming your body while your body is failing you from a horrible disease, healing some old wounds, right? Like there were some sexual things that she wanted to figure out for herself. But really in the process, Allison, I feel like it's a love story, not only between 2 women care deeply for each other, but a love story between Molly and herself, like really learning to love herself while she was dying. And so that's what Dying for Sex is.
Oh, and it's such a beautifully done, like even just having her voice on tape, like for you, like what is life like for you right now? Like it's winning awards, right? Or it got nominated for Gotham TV Awards.
Yeah.
And it was an award-winning podcast through Wondery that I'm sure is getting, kind of not resuscitated. We're using all this death
kind
language,
of. Yeah,
right?
I think you're right. Yeah. No, it is. Let's keep it all in the death. Let's keep it all in the death and hospital. We gave it CPR and now it's back to life.
Yeah. What is life like for you right now? I mean, just reliving it, seeing it all again, hearing her voice.
Yeah, that's a great question because I feel like I've gone through phases of that. Like when the podcast came out, I absorbed it for the first time, like as a listener, and I was destroyed, right? And then I kind of got through that hump of it. And then when I started working on the show and getting the scripts from my amazing writers and showrunners, Liz Merriweather and Kim Rosenstock, I would get the script in my email and I would read it, and it would be another level of like grief. And then when I would get the rough cuts from the studio and get to watch everything in action, I'd have another level of grief. And then when I watched it air on Hulu, another level. So in a weird way, I think I've been very mindfully grieving and very present to the grief. I'm really good at grief. And also, I'm also living with her still. If you think about it, like we're still working together. I still talk to her a little bit. I still ask her questions and guidance. So
what does that look like? Does she come to you? Is it like you're just talking, you feel her there? Like what is that experience for you like?
Well, I love that you asked it because I didn't really know how to navigate it at first. I was like, hey, I kind of need you here. So if something's not working, you need to give me a really hardcore sign, like that it can
Mm.
either help me feel it in my body, in my gut, my. It's just like, give me a sign. And what the vibe that I got from her when I sat and meditated and just thought about what she would say to me would be, you're doing a great job. If it feels good in your body, it would feel good for me. Like, go do you and figure it out. Like, I trust you. And so I felt the deep trust from her. She even told me that when she was still alive. But I ask her a lot, like, please tell me if this feels weird or wrong to you, or just give me a sign if something feels good. So the other day, oh my God, Allison, I was at breakfast with my friend Tara, and we were sitting at the table, and her coffee cup was sitting across from me. So imagine the coffee cup is here. And all of a sudden, we just see the coffee cup go
What?
across the table.
And you're moving the coffee cup across the table.
Yeah.
Nobody's touching it.
So the coffee cup slid about, I don't know, an inch and a half on its own.
Were you talking trash about Molly or something?
No, we were like, so funny. We were actually talking about another dead person. So we were like, is it that person or is it Molly? Like, we were trying to figure it out. But I do believe if you ask for signs, the universe will put them in front of you. But that, I have to say, that moving coffee cup, I still haven't figured out who it was. My friend thinks it may have been her dead grandfather. And I'm like, well, tell him to get out of the way because we're trying to talk to Molly. But it was, Allison, it was weird. I mean, the coffee cup slid and there was no water on the table. And it was the first time ever I had seen something that close, that obvious. So I do feel like if you ask for signs and you ask for intuitive hits, you can get them. And I know that makes me sound a little insane, but I don't care. I really don't care.
I don't think it does sound insane. I think, when I think about you and Molly and in general, the relationships that we have, I think about like having somebody to bear witness to your life is the greatest gift you can possibly have. And it's almost like I imagine you maybe hearing her voice from the podcast again. And it feels like that really happened. She's not really gone, like I'm still here. Like I wonder, is it surreal? Is it like watching your own life and just, dying for sex is, Jenny Slate plays you and Michelle Williams plays Molly. Does it feel like watching your own life or does it feel like there's similarities? Like, what is that like?
It's, I didn't know what this was going to feel like because I've never experienced anything like this. And I thought, being as type A and as much of a control freak as I am, that I was going to hold on kind of tightly to this, but I just had this deep trust, like a deep, deep, soulful trust with my creators and the people I was working with, that I knew that they got Molly. And that was really the most important. They got it. They understood her journey and they could tap into a really beautiful story that's Molly's story, but really kind of everyone's. I feel like this is a mirror that we hold up to ourselves, this show. I just knew that it was going to be okay. And so they involved me very much in the writing room and lots of conversations. I was very much a part of it. And it's weird because it's the first time in my life that I wasn't attached to outcome. I was very just steady and knowing that this was going to somehow creatively work out. And I know that sounds insane. It goes against everything that is in my personality. But when I watch it back, yes, there are differences. Yes, they take liberties. Yes, things are switched and changed in timelines. But the spirit of this show is me and Molly. Like 100% it feels like us. So I have to say there are things where I go, oh, that's cool, or that's interesting, or that's different, but it never rubs me the wrong way because I feel like it kind of unfolded exactly the way that it was supposed to in this time. Crazy, right? I know. So cool.
I mean, they're acting like Michelle Williams' eyes.
Blowing me away,
and
right?
Jenny, I mean, they just left it all out on the table. Like you could feel it viscerally
I love
where
that
you
said
couldn't
that.
take your eyes off of them, like it was just so beautifully done. And, I will share something personal that I am somebody that does not have a best friend. And it is something that I feel shame about. Not that I'm a hateful person or whatever. It just, I feel like I have maybe put a barrier around myself to protect myself. And it's something that I'm literally like, it is, I'm on a quest to find and to kind of let my guard down. I'm a well-liked person, but I don't have a best friend. And so I would love to know, what is it like to be completely and wholly loved by Molly?
Oh, that part makes me emotional because she was always my biggest fan. I kind of I could do no wrong, really, with her. Even on my worst days, she just loved me so much. And there were times, I'm going to be honest with you, Allison, there were times when it felt like too much love, right?
Really?
I felt like maybe I wasn't worthy of that, or like I don't know, or like it was so much just pure good and good love. It was unconditional, which I hadn't experienced that from like someone other than my husband, like and my mom, but like a real deep unconditional love. And it was unwavering. And I was just so impressed by her capacity to love a friend like that. And through the process of us doing this podcast, and even after she passed, I feel like it made me cry. I feel like I learned to love her in the way that she had loved me while she was alive. And I get the barriers and the guards, because being vulnerable is, I mean, listen, it's uncomfortable and it's messy, but now like uncomfortable conversations are now some of my favorite things to have. And friendships don't exist without those. Like you can't just talk about the weather. You can't just talk about like what's going on for dinner. And you have to force yourself in these friendships to go to those really deeply uncomfortable places. And that's not fun to do all the time, as we know. So I think female friendships are a measuring stick as to how far we're willing to go within ourselves. So it's interesting that you say that to me. Yeah. We're getting into it.
I mean, I wonder what your capacity looks like to love others being loved that way.
It's crapped. It's crapped. It's crapped me. It has cracked me open. It really has, because it feels so much better, like you said, to leave nothing on the table, just to do it all, even if it's messy, or it doesn't always feel good, and you kind of have growing pains together, right? I think that it's cracked me open, and it's helped me and it's also made me really clear about like who I want to give my time and energy to, because I don't have to do that for everybody. Like I was a bit of a people pleaser, and I felt like I had to do that for everyone. And then I didn't have really solid friendships in my life, but now I'm really picky. And I have to say, I really miss her as being one of my people, Yeah.
Really,
yeah.
Do you feel like you have that? It's a weird question. Like, do you have another best friend? Do you have somebody like, what is, I don't know. Like, how do you, like, I've been thinking about this all morning, and I think about like, if I were, and I did this like psychedelic assisted trip to help me with this, where
that's so great. Oh my God. I love that you did
that. So cool. It's so fun. But the wisdom that came through, I mean, the wisdom that came through, I had actually asked, and this was like, I was thinking that there is something that keeps coming up again and again and again as it relates to business, right? Like some kind of ceiling. And so I had gone into this experience asking the medicine, like, help me find where the fucking root is of this so I can figure it out and pull it out. And it was loneliness. And I am like deeply loved and supported. I have a husband and, kids and a happy home and all of this stuff. And the wisdom that came through was to let them in, and let people in. And I realized how much I've kind of tried to put this protective barrier. And so I think about an interview that you had done, and it was so magnificently beautiful, where I think you did it maybe 2 years ago, but you had shared that if you didn't experience this profound loss, the more you cry, the more it makes space for just an unfettered joy.
Yeah, that's it. You can't have one without the other, because as deeply as you're willing to carve that space, or that it is just carved for you by incidents or trauma or experiences, that space for sadness then immediately expands your capacity for joy. Like they go hand in hand. So when I'm crying and when I'm in that deep, dark place, I always visualize, like, this is going to sound so cheesy, but like there's a little person inside of me carving, like making room and digging a hole for joy to dump into, because they don't exist without each other. I mean, it's like, so that's, Eastern philosophy, but like the yin and the yang, like that's just how it is. It's just how life goes. And so I always try to remember when I'm in the trauma, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm increasing my capacity for joy and goodness. This shit's going to work out in my favor eventually.
So beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
But did it make you afraid to get close to somebody else? Or
no, it
okay,
made me lean in. Yeah, no, that's a great, no, because now I'm like, okay, I know what it feels like when the worst thing happens. You love someone dearly, they get sick and they die. I am so lucky that I got to be a part of her death and be a part of her passing. To me, the biggest fear is someone calling me and saying, Allison, like, someone's been killed in a car accident. That to me. So it's twofold. So what I do now is there's a major fear of death, right? That's just natural. But what the fear of death does is give me the like slap in the face of don't ever leave angry. Don't ever stay in a fight. Don't go to sleep mad. Always say, I love you. Be really connected when you exit and say goodbye to somebody. And then the other thing is to lean into the uncomfortable conversations, because if someone is passing away or someone is dying or on hospice, like show up and go, be there, connect with them, live their life with them. Like, so twofold. Yeah. Show up for the life. And if someone is dying, like show up for the death too. Like do not shy away from that. And it's hard in our culture. People don't want to do that. It is
hard. Was that hard for you? Or was it something that was instinctive? Or was it something you had to almost convince yourself? Because I think in general, especially in America, like grief, death, we are toxic positivity all the time and optimistic, is the way that we are, that things are just going to work out. How did you kind of go into that role of caretaker and just being there for her? I mean, you gave her a last bath. I mean, how beautiful is that?
It was like some of the most profound moments that I've ever had in my life were with her. And because of her, because I don't know if I would have given myself permission to go to those places without her requesting it of me. So I thought it was really cool that, and she would always say, I want you here for this, but if it's too much, I do understand. And she really did mean that.
For help.
I know.
Yeah, she asked for help.
Yeah, I know. And her mom was so present during those times. So I did have some breaks, but I have to say, like, throughout our whole relationship, she'd always say, you're my soulmate. You're my soulmate. You are it. And she'd be like, I think I'm your soulmate. And I'd be like, well, I love you so deeply, but I'm pretty sure my husband, the guy that I'm like crazy about and I've been with for 16 years, I'm sure she's like, yeah, he's great. But they had a really beautiful connection. Very soulful connection. Oddly, my husband and Molly look like they could be siblings. So that's like a therapy session in and of itself. Yes. They look very similar. But she'd always say, you're my soulmate. You're my soulmate. And after she passed away, and I was with her during her last breath, and I was really present for her death because she gave me permission to and requested me, to be present for that. So I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells, and I didn't think, oh, is this too much? I was like right in there because she told me what she wanted. And I came home, and I remember the weeks after she died, I was just a little numb and a little like confused about what my purpose was and what to do with myself. And my husband said, oh my gosh, she's literally your soulmate now. Like her soul is in you, and you are going to be telling this story like she's your soulmate. And I'm like, oh my God, she is. So it's like, it was this really beautiful moment of recognizing like that she was right.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about the sex part because how freaking funny are all of those stories? Not only in the podcast and the TV show, but there are some people with some weird ass fetishes, and she was down for it all.
She had no judgment, right? I was always like,
no
what?
Judgment. Live until you die. Live until you die. She lived big.
I loved it. She didn't, I think because I don't know a ton about fetishes and kinks and what people like, but I imagine it comes from shame. It all comes from like, oh, should I like that? I have to do that in private. Can I ask for that?
Yeah.
And then you empower yourself and then you ask for the things you want. And it's amazing. I'm assuming from my own life that kinks and fetishes can sometimes come from trauma or things that have happened. So I tried to reframe it and be like, wow, this is a really empowering thing. And the fact that Molly had zero judgment when these gentlemen would say, this is what I want. And she'd like kind of get off on it. It took me a minute on a couple of them to get on board. But overall, I was like, okay, I'm here for this. Like, you go ahead, you do that. I'm just going to have my vanilla sex over here with my husband. I'll just hang out over here and you can just tell me all your stories. I loved them. I loved that she loved people that were vulnerable, maybe a little bit damaged, but if you think about it, we're all damaged. But like, I loved that she just opened herself up to these stories. And I got her phone, Allison, after she passed away. She left me her phone and her computer. And when you have someone's phone and you go through it, you really get to see the exchanges. So I saw all the exchanges between her and these guys. I saw more dick pics than I ever needed to in my entire life, but their exchanges were very sexual, but they were also really loving and intimate. Like, it wasn't
How interesting.
Yeah, it was really, it was very connected.
I wonder what it must have felt like for her, because she didn't really have that background, right? Of just the sexual exploration because didn't she have like, she was on some chemotherapy drug that like oddly shot her libido up into like skyrocket.
Unheard of. Every doctor's like, what? That does not happen. But apparently with her, it just gave her this vibration feeling. So when she was sick, she was really, really sick and laid out. But when she was feeling good, she was almost like a teenager when their parents lift the curfew and they're like, you could stay out all night. And she was like, what? Wow. Right?
It must have been so fun for you. What was like the wildest story that she came back with?
Well, oh my gosh, there are so many. A lot of them are in the podcast or on the show, but there are a few that we couldn't include because they were so salacious. I can't even talk about them because I'm like, what? But
oh my God.
I know. And she always kept her, I was concerned about her safety, right? Because there were times where I'd be like, can you just let me know you're okay? And there were a few times it felt a little compromised, to be honest, and where the sexual escapades didn't land exactly the way that she wanted them, or the guys weren't exactly what she had anticipated. And those were not good moments. So it wasn't all, rainbows and butterflies and fun sex. There were definitely some dark moments, but that was just part of her journey and part of her healing some sexual wounds that she had from childhood. But one time she had a really good night with this guy who happened to be a clown.
Okay.
And hilarious. I'm like, how do you find a clown? And she said, I'm really sick this morning. I'm not feeling great. And I said, oh, too much partying last night. Molly didn't do drugs. Molly didn't even drink. She'd have like a club soda. So like partying just meant out late. But she said, no, that the drugs are hitting me this morning. So I brought her over some soup and she opened the door and she was in this beautiful like black satin, and her hair is blonde and all messy. And then she turns and on the side of her face, she's got clown makeup smeared down the side of her face and her body. I'm like, what were you doing? She was like, oh, I was making out with a clown. And I said, where? And she goes, at a mortuary. And I'm like, what? And she said, he's a clown, but he's also a mortician. And I'm like,
oh my God.
I know.
That's like every part of life all in one.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that was one of my favorite mornings. So I dropped off the soup and I said, go rest. You clearly have, you have pushed yourself too far, my love.
Go take a nap.
Yeah, go take a nap, please.
You've earned it. You've earned it. I wonder, like, what are the stories that you hear from people? Because I imagine people probably reach out to you with their stories, their cancer journeys, their best friend journeys. What are the stories that are coming back to you?
I'm getting so many, Allison. Like I wake up in the morning and one of my favorite things to do is like lay in my bed for 20 minutes and just look at my DMs because it's just
Oh,
this
that's so sweet.
pouring of love from other people that are the metastatic breast cancer community is saying things like, thank you. Thank you for the story. Thank you for like showing a woman with this disease, living her life, being bold and messy and amazing. Like, thank you for the comedy of this. I have people that are best friends of someone who has cancer and are like, thank you for showing me kind of how to have these uncomfortable conversations. I've even got people saying, gosh, my relationship with my mom has been so estranged and watching this made me pick up the phone and call her. I haven't talked to her
Wow.
in years. Like, I think what it's doing is a friend of mine texted me and said, when I watch this show, I feel every character in me, and I feel myself in every character. And that is the biggest compliment because that's what
Wow.
art is supposed to do, is reflect back and challenge your thoughts and make you think about things differently and crack open your heart. And I really am so proud of Molly because I feel like the way she lived her tiny little life really has exploded into something so big and so beautiful.
But I think we walk around so desperate for purpose and meaning that our life has
Yeah.
meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And she willed you her whole story, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you feel like she's orchestrating this from beyond?
Oh, girl. She is large and she was
Oh
so
my God.
thoughtful about how she ended her life, which is one thing I think I want to express to people. Like, you can die if you're lucky enough to have an exit. I'm sure if we talked to Molly right now, she would say it was incredibly painful and it was incredibly difficult, right? Physically.
Yeah.
But emotionally, she got to really wrap things up for herself. And I think that's such a gift to be able to do that. And so she really leaned
Yes.
into that. And so she was very vocal with me about how she wanted things wrapped up and what she hoped for this story. But I don't think in a million years she would have ever known that it was going to do this after she died. I mean, we'd sit in the hospital bed and joke around and be like, well, what are we going to do with this project? Is it gonna like make a difference? And if it does, who would play you and who would play me? And we would just sit and fantasize like, yeah, but it was just all like, sort of like, wouldn't that be fun if? And so
And
when
I'm
we got,
thinking, like, would she die
Mhm.
knowing that Michelle Williams is playing her? And
she would have,
it's
she would
just bad
die.
humor.
She would die. No, she would
She
seriously, she'd come back and then die again because she'd be so enamored. Because Molly she had really high standards and really great taste. I call her a snob sometimes, but that sounds mean. But she was always liked really nice things and had a high standard for like art. And so she would have been obsessed with Michelle. She would have been so grateful that someone so into her craft and someone so thoughtful and lovely and picky about projects, very choosy about projects was playing her. She would have been over the moon for sure.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
I know.
I was thinking about, there's something that really stood out to me about the show that rattled me. And it
What?
was the hospice nurse, the character of the hospice nurse.
Amy. Yeah, Paula Pell. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I love how she was, way too excited about death, but
Right.
it never occurred to me of the concept of your body already knows how to die.
Right.
Like, that really, really stuck out to me, that your organs are going to shut down because they are supposed to. It's not that your body is failing.
Mm-hmm.
It is preparing for you.
Yes.
And that was so beautiful.
Right?
And I never heard death as like, it always is some tragic ending,
Yeah.
and too short and too all of these things. And I wonder about the comfort that this show may bring to people that are scared of their mortality. And, how we handle grief,
Mm-hmm.
and how we handle grief, not only for ourselves, but for our loved ones. What advice do you have for people that are facing unimaginable fear around their future?
Well, first of all, I totally get it. It's terrifying. Like, I'm the girl who wakes up in the middle of the night and my husband's next to me sleeping. And sometimes I put my finger in front of his nose to see if he's breathing. So,
Oh my goodness.
As evolved as I am around death, losing the people that I love traumatizing. But once I'm in the process of the loss, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I'm a real rock star when somebody gets a diagnosis and needs me and I can beautifully like walk them home. I'm really good at that because we're processing it together. It's when someone is kind of ripped out of your life really quickly. That's my biggest fear. So just know I've got issues, but I think what big ones,
just in case anybody thought you had it together. You're just like us.
Honest. Yeah, exactly. I'm Tara. I'm like literally making sure my husband's breathing and seeing if his chest is moving in the middle of the night. I've got issues. But one thing I've learned is that death is something no one really wants to talk about. And Molly gave me permission and kicked open the door and said, yes, we can talk about this. And I learned so much from her. So now when I hear somebody has a diagnosis or somebody's in the hospital or somebody's sick, I'm really careful about how I engage. I don't say, I'm so sorry. What can I do for you? Right? Huh. What can I do for you? Puts that on to them. Then they have to tell you what they need. And then that gives them, they have to be in charge. They have to think. My favorite way to be there for people is say, hey, here's 3 options. Which one feels best? Do you want me to stop and bring by food? Do you want me to just have a meal train for the week? Or do you want me to come sit in bed, watch a movie and do laundry for you? If it's none of the above, great. And I feel like having the uncomfortable conversations and having the dialogue that nobody wants to have, talking about the elephant in the room, is often the one thing that people need, which is a little air out of the balloon. A little, oh my gosh, yes. You know, I think with people that have lost children, nobody ever asks them about their kids because you're afraid to. But one of my friend's favorite questions is, tell me about your daughter. Tell me about what was she like? What was he like? And so we're so afraid to talk about death, but the people that are experiencing it are wanting to share and express themselves 9 times out of 10. So I say, have some of those uncomfortable conversations and say, I want to be there for you, but you and I need to have a dialogue so I can understand what that means. Because I want to be a good friend and I don't want to put anything on you, but I don't really know how to do this. So we're going to have to talk this out. And one conversation can shift everything.
That's beautiful. I love giving that perspective because I think everyone is like a freak over when some things are uncomfortable. It's kind of like, you know, people that have lost their child or had some traumatic event. And when they tell somebody, they're so worried about how it's going to land or that they're going to be too negative or that it's going to bring the vibe down. It's a really weird thing. I think it's something we need to talk more about. Yeah. What was Molly afraid of death?
I think early on she was. When she got her diagnosis at first, it was like, I don't want to. I remember her just being like, I don't want to die. Like, are you kidding me? I'm a young woman. I have a lot to live for. I think she wanted to experience a lot of things. If she was going to die, she felt the ticking clock for sure. And so I think that's part of what caused her to leave her relationship and go, okay, I love my partner. He is a good human. We had a good thing, but now that's not fitting the life that I want to live and the self-discovery I want to do. Really brave, right?
That was so bold.
I know.
I mean, that, you know, I couldn't imagine, you know, like it sounds like it gave her so much discernment and perspective for what she wanted. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how many people would take that versus just clinging on to everything you have, knowing that the clock is ticking. I remember when my mother got diagnosed with terminal cancer, she would have 6 months left. And she did not go on wild sexual escapades, you know, at 78 years old.
Mom!
But what I thought was interesting that I started to see some similarities is that my mom turned off the news. She didn't turn on the TV. And for the first time in her life, I'm one of 7 kids.
Oh, wow.
And she let people love her. And even though she was in gradual pain, she, like, all the stuff that she used to engage in before, it didn't matter. Like, she just zoned in on what really mattered, where she didn't let people love her, which kind of goes back to me keeping people away, you know. But she just let people in and see her look like complete shit and hell, and just watch the color go out of her face. But we could visit her. And I thought it was such a big learning lesson for me, and of how she had the most beautiful death because she let people in. And I wonder, do you fear death?
Oh God, that's a good one. I just keep thinking about your mom. Do I fear
You're so
death?
sweet, Nikki.
Well, I'm just like in the mom zone. I'm just like, love her. I don't fear dying, but I fear losing the people I love. So if you die, you're then losing your connection to them. That is the part that, like, I don't feel like I fear like what's going to happen to me or where do I go? And I just know that there's something bigger and more beautiful that I can't even wrap my brain around. I don't think it's God. I don't think it's heaven. I think it's something that there's no way that we could even wrap our brains around it. I think it's so cool. So I'm excited for like, what is that about? But I will be incredibly sad to leave the people that I love behind. It's incredibly sad. But when you're dying, and I learned this with Molly, there's like she had at times this sort of euphoric feeling of, she had fear, but there was also a lot of fear. But there were also these moments where she was just so filled with like, and it's in the podcast, like, I can't believe I get to go on a trip. Like I get to go do something I've never done before. So I know that that's a part of it as well. So that's a good question. I have to go to therapy on that one.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have my address to send me a bill.
What about you?
Am I? Oh yeah, I'm terrified of death. I'm terrified. And I think it's more the ticking time clock of like, there's so much that I want to do. And, I spent my career in the corporate world. So I spent 25 years in corporate sales. So I worked for like Salesforce, DocuSign, ADP. I have a degree in broadcasting. I started this podcast 6 years ago. It is where I feel the most lit up. It's always been my love and my dream. And my mother was a stay-at-home mom of 6 kids. And she would implore in me and my sisters, never rely on a man to make money, always make your own, because she did not make those choices. And so I have always picked the money, and like sacrificed my passion and my creative side. And so 3 years ago, I left my corporate career to start completely over. And, we're a 2-income family, and I took a really big income completely away with no idea of how or if I would ever, make that kind of money again. And so the practical aspect of it is that my world gets a little smaller. I can't travel. I can't, travel like I would like to. And so I feel like that the looming death of like, I'm 50. Do I have, will I love exploring. I love learning. I love, being in different cultures. And is that going to be available to me to learn what I need to learn and share the lessons and leave the legacy? And it always feels like you're so far behind, Allison. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you gotta,
I know that
do
feeling.
Something. So there is a tension there.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question.
But I know that feeling. It's an interesting feeling. Like what I think that the risk of really cracking yourself open and asking these uncomfortable questions is then you have to deal with the answer, right? Because if you're like, well, I'm not going to think about it. But I think when you start to ask those uncomfortable questions and get clear about like, I really want to do these things, I think that ignites the fire and ignites your thinking of, well, what steps can I take right now that can set up maybe in a year or two where that might be an option? And if you just stay kind of closed off to it and quiet and still, then nothing moves, like nothing changes if nothing changes. So even just a thought and a conversation around things, I think can ignite. But
Well, turn it back on you, Nikki. Do you feel like you live bigger because of how Molly lived big in the end?
Ooh. Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah, I feel like I go on the trips. I go in the debt. I do the, like, I mean, listen, I really like to be in my house with my sweatpants on, watching bad TV with my husband. It's like my favorite thing to do. I'm not a party girl. I'm not like, I don't know. But when like someone says, hey, we're going to go to Hawaii for, you know, my 60th birthday, my one friend. And I'm like, yes, I'm going. Like before I would have been like, well, let me check schedule. And I just say yes and make it work. And I find the money and I find the airline miles, or I borrow from people and I organize my schedule and I bring my computer. Like I just say yes and figure it out. Because if I don't do that, I'm going to be like 85 being like, why didn't I just go to Hawaii? Why didn't I go on the trip? Why didn't I do the road trip? Why didn't I go to the dinner party? But I do love to like sit home and rest. So it's a balancing act for me. But I just say yes a lot. It's like, why not?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm curious about Molly's writing. And so I saw that she wrote a book, but she also wrote a blog. And I couldn't help but laugh that her last one was like titled, I'm dead. I'm now dead or something. And it was so kind of sarcastic and almost like, you know, too bad if you didn't get to say goodbye. It's really funny. Tell me about her writing and what do you do with it?
I love that you asked that. She wrote her own obituary. That was basically her obituary. And it was like, some people didn't know how to receive it, but I think that's a good segue from what you said, which is, you know, that fear of like, what if I don't have the time, or I can't do what I want to do, and I have all these dreams. Molly's lifelong dream, was to write a book. And she waited until she was in her deathbed 3 months before dying. And
wow.
I mean, let me rephrase that. She didn't start the book then. She started the book probably like 5 or 6 months before she got into the hospital and wrote a couple of chapters and was really working, but then thought, oh my gosh, I am on limited time and I have to finish this book. And I do believe the book is what kind of kept her alive those last few weeks, because she was so desperate to finish it. And I said, Molly, you waited your whole life for this. And she's like, why did I wait till the last minute to do this? And so she wrote her book called Screw Cancer, Becoming Whole. And I self-published it. It's on Amazon if anybody wants to go get it. Screw Cancer, Becoming Whole. But it ties in because that was her dream. That was her life goal, was to write a book, and she did it. But my double down on this is, hey, let's not wait for a diagnosis, and let's not wait to be stuck in the hospital to do the thing that you've always wanted to do. Like, please do it now. Please set it in motion, because you're not going to have more energy when you're 85 if you're lucky enough to get that old. You're not going to have more gumption to be like, let me do this shit now. Do it now. And so I do carry that with me when I think of, should I do this? Should I wait? How do I figure this out? And I'm like, well, what am I waiting for? What am I waiting for? I mean, partly to hit the lottery, but what am I waiting for, right? Wouldn't that be nice?
Do you feel like Molly died whole?
Very much so. Yeah. I felt like she did.
What a gift.
Yeah, she put the pieces back together. And she deeply fell in love with herself in a way that, like you said with your mom, where she stopped caring about how she looked. She stopped caring about her attachments to like things. I watched Molly do that so beautifully. And it was actually the prettiest she's ever looked, because there was this glow and this release of caring about how she looked and how she was being received and if she was desirable. It's interesting as a woman, I think once you let go of that and you just focus on your soul connections, I mean, she was glowing at the end. I was like, you're just so beautiful. You're like so vibrant. And so, yeah, I think she died feeling very whole.
That is so beautiful. And what a perfect place to close up our conversation. Nikki, how do people talk to you, obviously you can watch Dying for Sex on Hulu. Is it FX? Is it Disney Plus? Is it all three?
It's all three. It's FX's show, but you can watch it on Hulu or Disney Plus. All 8 episodes,
Okay.
you can binge it, Dying for Sex. And
So
then if
good.
you want to hear real Molly, you can go back and listen to the Dying for Sex podcast on Wondery. And then I also did 3 episodes where I got to interview some of the cast and talk about what it was like to work together. So those are really fun little bonus episodes. And then if you want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram at Nikki Boyer, and I love to communicate. Like if you watch the show, like I love nothing more than getting a response from people like, hey, I watched the show, or I'm on episode 5. Here's what I think. Like I love that communication. And that's how you find me. And I just want to say, like, you are so good at this. Like talk about such a beautiful conversation. You're so good at cracking people open. So if you're open to a new friend,
I am.
I'm right here.
I'm looking for a new best friend. I'll hold back your hair and wash you if you want.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Nikki. You are wonderful. What a gift that it has been to have you have a conversation with you. But really the show and the whole concept just had me reevaluate what I want, and how to live life and live life bigger. And I think anytime there is art and entertainment that allows us to reflect back on us making bigger choices, that is how a culture changes. And that is how we change as people. So thank you so much for sharing and bearing your heart as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.